Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center. It's time for Taroscopes. We're going to be doing the Taroscopes for the sign of Leo. That's Leo Sun, Leo Moon, Leo Rising for the month of October 2023. So let's get started. All right, let's get started. So we have some visual aids this month. I'm going to be using these, I think, each month. Just helps me to sort of stay focused on the chart, not having to pull it out of my head all the time. And you can take a look at it as well. So we look at, we're dealing with Leo, right? Leo is ruled by the sun. And so where the sun sits in the chart is important sign. And then also house placement for Leo. The sun starts, of course, the month in Libra and moves into Scorpio on the 23rd. So while in Libra, it's moving through that third house for you. The sun is illuminating, it illuminates things. Third house can be siblings, if you have siblings. It can be your neighborhood. It can be focused on your neighborhood, your next door neighbor, in fact. We have the sun there this month. We also have Mercury there for a time, and Mars starting the month in Libra. We also have a new moon solar eclipse in Libra. Solar eclipses, new moons actually, it's at 22 degrees of Libra. New moons generally are related to new things coming in, but the eclipses are happening at the south node of the moon. So there's a beginning of an ending to a certain extent. And of course, things with eclipses, things can pass out of your life. For me, I have a Leo ascendant. My neighbor just sold her house and will probably be moving in the month of October, and she just happens to be a Libra. So she's moving on in her life, and unfortunately for me, that means she's moving away from me because it's a neighbor I happen to really like. The kind of thing that can happen, good news for her. Maybe good news for me. You don't know who's going to move in next door. Could he be a better neighbor? Hopefully. We'll see. But there is this energy around your immediate environment. The sun then moves into Scorpio. For you, that is your fourth house. The fourth house, a very personal house. It's a water house, a very emotional. So you're definitely going to be working on some of your emotions and your feelings with the sun there. We also have Mars. Mars starts in Libra, moves into Scorpio. That occurs on the 12th, I believe. Yes, October 12th. So almost half the month in Libra, and then the rest of the month in Scorpio. Mars in Scorpio for you is really about getting down to the bottom line, and it's in your fourth house. So it could be bottom line issues around your home, bottom line issues around your family, your clan, issues like that come up with Mars moving through that house. Mercury, the planet of the mind, which had been retrograde in Virgo for quite a long time, your second house. Mercury retrograde in Virgo was doing a lot of work, putting a lot of effort, but not necessarily seeing the results of that effort, right? But now that Mercury is moving direct and moving out of its shadow at the end of September, and in that second house, you're going to start to see an increase in, I think, resources for yourself. Then Mercury moves into the third house, where it's its natural house. It likes being in the third house. It's in Libra. So there's this energy of wanting to come to some sort of agreement or peaceful resolution to an issue, perhaps. And then it slips into Scorpio. So Mercury, which had spent so much time in one sign, now runs through three signs this month. And so things are moving pretty quickly. Communications are moving quickly, and things of a mercurial nature happen like that. All right. The Venus, lest we forget Venus, who was retrograde in Leo for 40 days or 40 plus days, in that first house, sort of coming to a new understanding of self, perhaps doing something for yourself, a lot of self-care with that Venus retrograde in the first house in Leo, really connecting with your spiritual core. Really, really important time for you. Now it's moving on. Venus moves out of Leo on October 8th, moving into Virgo, into your second house. Uh, that's an increased workload, really. Venus is your money house. Venus is a money energy. Moving through that second house of your resources, there can be an increase in resources, but it comes because you've done the work. It's not like it just falls in your lap. You've done the work to get there. So that's good. Now that you realize just how special you are, Leo, you're moving forward and starting to make maybe a little bit more money. The social planets, Jupiter and Saturn, those are the planets that deal with how we interact in society. They're both moving retrograde. Jupiter in Taurus, of course, has been in your house of your career, the 10th house, your public standing. People see you with Jupiter and Taurus. So Jupiter was moving forward for a while. Now it's moving backwards. It's going to move forward. It spends a year in Taurus. It went in May and will go out next May of 2024. So it's a whole year of Jupiter and Taurus, which will expand your value out in the world. Okay, now it's going retrograde. Now there's a little reorganization, a rethinking, or just going over some things, some plans that you had initiated. Now you're going over to sort of tighten them up. And then once Jupiter goes direct, they should be able to manifest for you. You also have Uranus up there in that house, and it's been there for a while. Uranus has been in Taurus for a number of years. It's there for 7 years. And so it brings up, like, Uranus is things that you have to deal with in a very public way. And so things unexpected, usually unexpected things happening. This would be a reading for Trump as well, because he does have a Leo ascendant, in case you're keeping track of that stuff. Saturn retrograde in Pisces. This is a tough one. It's in your 8th house of shared resources. Sometimes when Saturn goes through there, you can be audited. So be aware of that as you move through. Now Saturn's there for a long time. It's there for about 3 years, and it's moving backwards right now. It's going to actually move from 1.5 degrees of Pisces back to 0.5 degree of Pisces within the time of the month. It's moving backwards very, very slowly, and then it's going to move forward again. So this is a really good time for you to, especially as in the retrograde cycles of this Saturn in Pisces, to cross your I's, to dot your T's, to make sure that your finances that are shared with others, your debt is looked at, evaluated. If any changes need to be made or anything that needs to happen, this is the time to do it. But again, you have 3 years to do it. Just be aware that you're not going to get away with anything when it comes to, you can't be cheating on your taxes, okay? And sometimes you don't even mean to. Sometimes it's just like you don't know the rule, or the accountant that did them, might have an issue. So just be aware that you have to make sure that that's all taken care of. Neptune is there, of course. It's been there. It's Neptune is in a sign for 14 years, and it's sort of been meandering through that 8th house. The 8th house is a treasure trove, really, of dark and sometimes slimy things. Neptune in that house actually is a healing influence for that. The 8th house is how you emotionally react and respond to things in a way. And with Pisces there, sometimes you tend to like not deal with things. But Neptune is saying it's time for the healing to happen. It's time for the healing to happen. We talked about Uranus. Yep, we talked about Uranus. Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth, has been in your 6th house for a long time, 2008. The 6th house is your house of health, house of pets, mentors. You find you can be a mentor to somebody. It's a mentoring house. And it's also a health house. And so it has been really having to like evaluate your own personal health and how much stress you put on yourself. People who have Saturn in the sixth house take on a lot of responsibility, and maybe not all of it is yours to take on. So figuring out what's your responsibility and what's not. Now, Pluto is almost out of Capricorn. It's going to be out of Capricorn in January of 2024. Does have one last little dip into Capricorn. So we're not quite done with the Capricorn energy. That's going to happen in fall of 2024, starting in September and ending right after the election, the presidential election. I think like a week later, it moves back into Aquarius. So we'll see what that means for the rest of us, or for all of us. But for Leo rising, with Leo's, it's almost time for you to get out into the world again. And we had a little bit of a taste of that when Pluto was in Aquarius. So we're going to start, you've already tasted what the next 20 years is going to be like for you. And just go back to the time when Pluto was in Aquarius, which was March 23rd to, I believe, July 2nd. Which is interesting because my husband is born on the 22nd of March, and I'm born on the 3rd of July. So that Pluto in Aquarius sort of was in our chart, but not quite. But then once it moves into Aquarius, boom, it's gonna be there for us. But anyway, that's us, that's not you. Or it could be you. So I mentioned it. I mentioned whatever I mentioned for the reasons I mentioned it. All right. So that's it. All right, we're gonna stop the share now. And we're gonna do a card reading. And I'm gonna use the Illuminati deck. I often use this deck for Leo. It's jazzy and pizzazzy. It's royal. There's a lot of velvety things. You know, Leo loves that stuff. They're born royalty. All right. Just a few shuffles here. We'll see. There are 2 eclipses as well, which I keep forgetting to mention. It was on the chart if you want to go back and look at it. We have a new moon eclipse. Oh, I did mention it, right? Oh, I mentioned the new moon eclipse about my neighbor moving away. Yeah. We also have a full moon eclipse that's in Taurus. Still sort of bringing in that nodal energy from the last set of nodes, right? The node shifted in July. It was a big shift when the North Node moved into Aries and the South Node moved into Aquarius, and then Pluto squared it. Remember that? Remember July? Anyway, it was quite the end of July. Woo, August, woo, September, woo, October, woo. I mean, it's going to be a lot of woo months, right? Woo, woo. But the full moon for you is happening in the 4th and the 10th house, right? The full moon is going to be in your 10th house. The sun is going to be in Scorpio down in the 4th house, and it activates that axis of security. You're going to see where you stand. It's like a home and career, inner and outer realizations. Perhaps maybe a reality check of some sort, but it's very emotional. It's very emotional because you're dealing with water, you're dealing with a Scorpio moon, and it's very deep. And so there can be a lot of feelings that come up at that time. Just be aware of that, Leo. All right. Both eclipses occur at the south node of the this is a south node season, south node eclipse season, and so it really is about what you need to let go of, realizations about what you need to let go of. We start with the 7 of Swords. Somebody hasn't been that truthful with you, and you know it now. You see it for what it is. Interesting that this could be Trump, right? Trump's chart, Trump's reading, being a Leo ascendant. So people know what you did. People know what you did. Or if you haven't done anything like the ex-president has, you see it. You see where people you've been proven right, which isn't always great, but you've been proven right. The challenge is finding happiness despite that, finding fulfillment. Okay, staying happy even though, like, sometimes you go, I knew that was going to happen. I told that person back then that this was not a good idea. They didn't listen. And so there's when things finally come down and you see that what you said was right, and, of course, not to say I told you so, because that's not really helpful, but to witness that your instincts on something was right can be a good feeling. But then sometimes, because you're seeing it in somebody else that you care about and you wish they hadn't to go through that, it can be a little challenging. And I think that's kind of what the energy is here. Let's see what's underneath it all. Victory, yeah, the victory card. You're victorious. You saw it. You named it. Maybe people didn't believe you. But yeah, so standing on the victory, but victory at what cost? Victory at what cost? See what's in the past. And the Four of Pentacles, this is hanging on to what you have, maybe to the detriment of you. It's not always a good thing to hang on. Sometimes you have to let go. This guy is holding his pentacles on his head and over his heart chakra and on his feet. Now he stands on the pentacle, so he's standing on what he's accrued, but he's blocking his psychic sense. He's blocking his heart with these pentacles. So where have you done that? Where have you closed off your heart or your connection to spirit in an attempt to get money or to acquire something? Okay. But the Four of Pentacles also, you have something, you have acquired something. And so it's not just a negative, like, what did you have to, what terrible things have you done to get there? It's not really about that. It's sometimes you kind of have to get into the energy of, I need to survive here and I can't share what I have because I need it. Right? So there's that energy. Let's look up in the sky. We have the Two of Pentacles in the sky. So there's a little bit of turbulent water. It's going to be important that you try to keep your balance through this period. Be very aware of that. In immediate future, we have the Devil card. This is interesting because this was the card that came up in this position for Sagittarius as well, asking you, what are you chained to? Now, if we look at the ex-president, which I don't like to mention, but he does have a Leo ascendant, and I've mentioned it like 5 times already. This could be greed and avarice and, seeing him for who he is. But for the rest of us who might have Leo, this might apply to them. This is about being aware of what you're chained to and knowing that it's a choice, Maybe it's time to choose differently. The Devil is also an energy of mirth and having fun. Maybe you haven't had enough fun, and maybe it's time to loosen up a little bit. It'll depend on, it's not a one size fit all. Every card has 2 meanings. How other people see you, they see you as really good at what you're doing. You're a craftsman, you're an expert. They need advice, they'll come to you because they know you know what you're doing. Also, you should be able to get paid pretty well for it. A lot of pentacle cards in this one. All right, let's see what's next. Your domestic situation changes, quick changes, information coming in rather suddenly. This is Sagittarius card. The biggest challenge here is just getting overwhelmed with information. That's the biggest challenge here. But a lot of messages coming in, a lot of information coming in. You're going to learn a lot, things that maybe you thought you knew, that you intuited, all are coming, and you're like, oh, like when I said, like, you're like, oh, I was right about that. Oh, and I was right about that. And I was right about that. Oh my God, now I'm going to do with all the stuff that I was right about. Right? So, hopes and fears, the Empress. You hope for, the Empress is about abundance, fertility. Unless you have 10 kids and you don't want an 11th, you're not going to fear that. In the case of Trump, though, that's And that happens to be in Russia. Outcome is the Seven of Pentacles. There's still work you need to do on your finances. You're still not quite ready. The plants need to be nurtured. The energy of money needs to be nurtured. And if there are things that are sucking you dry, you want to make sure that you remove those. So an example of some very like mundane example of that is, if you have, say you have a streaming service and you do Netflix and then you do Amazon and then you do something else and something else. And at the end of the month, it's like $100 is out of your pocket and you're like, I didn't even use it. So this is a time to really sort of check where your money's going and what can be sort of paired off so that you can work with what is most important and what you most need in order to grow more of that energy, more money, more resources. I'm going to pick 3 to see if we can get a major arcana. We have the 5 of Wands. So this is a little bit of chaos, a little bit of maybe a little melee, maybe a little spat with somebody. But this is also, and of course, for the ex-president, this would be like partisanship, fighting among the partisans. But there is a creative energy to this. This is a Mars card, and it's Mars and Leo. Mars and Leo card. So sometimes that energy of melee and sort of play fighting actually increases the creativity. 4 of Cups here, a little bit of divine discontent. If you find yourself getting blue about something, you have to look to see what else is around you, what else is being offered. You're too involved in your stuff to actually see what else is around you. And then the Hanged Man, which of course is the major arcana that came up. This is really about looking at life from a different perspective. It's also about knowing what you have power to change and changing it, and knowing what you don't have power to change and letting it go. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself nuts. Let's see what's underneath. We have the 8 of Pentacles, which is hard work, doing what you're good at, and doing a lot of it. So there's a lot of work for you this month. The 9 of Cups, getting your wishes to come true. I like that. That's good. And then the Hermit. And the Hermit is about shining your light. It's about, there is a certain amount of isolation that comes with the Hermit. This is an introspective time for you. You have all that energy moving through your 4th house. It's not necessarily, once it moves out of the 3rd, a lot of activity when it's in the 3rd. And when it moves in the 4th, things sort of quiet down. So towards the end of the month, I think things are going to quiet down a bit for you, and you'll have time to be in that more hermit-like introspective space. And as I said, there's a lot of information coming at you, and that will give you the opportunity to figure out what that all means for you and what your next steps are going to be. So that's the story, Morning Glories. All right. Let's do a oracle card. I'm using the Spirit Animal Oracle by Collette Baron-Reid. Whenever I say that, I want to say Sacha Baron Cohen, but that's not who it is. It's just those 3 names with the, I don't know, just sounds like it, right? Colette's. What a pretty name. I like that name. I like French girls' names. I think France is French is like a very, like, of course, Leo, right? Leo rising, wouldn't I love the French names? Colette, Charlotte. What else do I like? Monique. This sounds so exotic. And then you have the German names like Gertrude and Hildegard and Gretchen. They're all like names of like warrior princesses, right? The German names. Thought, just a random thought that went through my mind. I named my German Shepherd Gretchen. I said to my husband, if I get a girl, I'm gonna name her Gretchen. That was before I even knew I was getting a dog. If I ever get a German Shepherd, I'm going to name her Gretchen. And Margaret, Gretchen means a pearl. It's the German form of Margaret. She was a pearl. I miss that girl. Scorpio. Never forgot a slight. That one. She has Scorpio. What'd she have in Leo? She had a grand fixed cross in her chart. She was very stubborn, but she was very loving. She had a Pisces moon, thank God. Otherwise, I don't think I could have trained her. It's a good girl. Hopefully, I'll have another opportunity with her spirit. All right, let's see what's going on here. Otter spirit, you are never alone, even when you want to be. No. Otter spirit. Let me read this. I haven't ever seen this one before. I'm going to read from the book because she does such a good job. There's no point in reinventing the wheel. But I do know that otter is about play, and we did have that double card in the immediate environment, which can be play, can be mirth, it can be humor, right? Laughter raises the vibration, just like singing. Whenever we're listening, whenever we have the television on and there's like some sort of like little kids laughing, that the melodic laughing, the bird always laughs along with it. Like the bird loves the sound of children. I think he might be a Leo. Well, we named him Apollo because he thinks the world revolves around him, and Apollo is the sun god. So he might as well be a Leo, even if he's not quite a Leo. We can imagine that he is. Says you are never alone. Like true friends, otters nurture each other and express their affection through touch. Actions such as holding hands and giving hugs offer reassurance that we are never really alone and that we are always cherished. Otter spirit has appeared to remind you to experience and express friendship in a tangible and even tactile way. Communicate with your voice, your facial expression, your gestures, and your actions. Letting your love express itself beyond just the words you speak, Otter Spirit's message is that presence matters. So remember to be fully present with those you care about, helping them sense the love and affection and appreciation you have for them. Now is the time for a joyful celebration of the love in your life that expresses as friendship and companionship. Hug somebody, touch their arm, or simply look into their eyes with your full attention, saying, I care, you matter. Make time for friendship. Otter Spirit promises that the moment you reach out, you will remember that you too have many who love you and care about you. You are never alone, and you are always loved. Leo's all about love, right? There's a heart right there. Very, very Leo. All right, guys. Well, have yourself a wonderful month. Like and subscribe if you would. Give me a thumbs up. That's helpful for the algorithm. If this is something that helped you, maybe it can help somebody else. And if you give me the thumbs up, then it gets around. If you'd like to support me a little bit more than just a thumbs up, I do have a Patreon page. Patreon people get all this stuff first. So you'll be the first in line. And we know how Leos like to be the first in line, right? I have Leo ascendant. I feel like I can say these things. So you could do that. I also do readings, numerology, Kabbalah, astrology readings. If you're wondering what they're like, you can check out any of my in the news segments that I've done, or even just segments I've done on people about in their astrology and Kabbalah. You can see how that works. I have an hour and an hour and a half reading. If it's your first one, I do prefer more time, but whatever you can afford is fine. You'll get the information that you need. There is a link below for that. So until next month, take care of yourself. Have a little fun. And it'll make sense. By the end of the month, you'll have a better handle of what that all meant. All right, guys. Take care. Much love. Namaste.